Good morning, beautiful people. It is Sarah Willoughby from sarahwilloughby.com. This morning, I am with the beautiful Nora DeBora, and I'm very excited to be having this conversation today because I know she has so much wisdom to share with us all. Welcome, Nora.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you for having me.
My absolute pleasure. I'm going to read you Nora's beautiful bio. So Nora DeBora is a preconception health coach, holistic nutritionist, and fertility awareness practitioner who helps women and couples prepare for pregnancy and have a healthy baby after 30, which I love because there is so much noise around age, isn't there, in fertility? Through his
Yes.
signature program, Master Your Cycle, which we definitely need to talk about to get pregnant, she teaches women how to optimize their hormones and fertility by harnessing the power of their menstrual cycle with targeted nutrition, cycle charting, and self-care practices. When she's not coaching, you can find her indulging in gourmet burgers, yum, sweating in a yoga class, or on long hikes with her husky. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so nice. Haven't read my bio in a while, and it was really nice to hear it read out loud to me. So thank you.
I know. Sometimes I think we forget the journey that we've been on, haven't we? We just do all the
Yes.
things, and then it's actually nice just to sit back and reflect and think, oh, actually, look at the journey that I've been on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm really excited to chat with you today.
Awesome. So let's start with your journey. How did you get into the fertility space? What was your motivation, behind that?
Yeah. My motivation was pretty much my own story, which I think a lot of our motivations kind of come from that. I'm 39 years old now, and I have always deeply desired to be a mom and have a family. I actually grew up with four brothers, so there was five of us in the house.
Okay.
Big family, lots of just noise, kids, everything was just kids running around everywhere. I am the second youngest of five, and my youngest brother was born when I was 6, and I literally claimed him as my own baby. I was like, Mom, he's mine.
Oh.
I've got him. Don't worry about it. She was super happy about that because there was just so
Yeah.
many of us already. But the reason why I say that is just because since I was so little, I've always just had this strong maternal instinct. And I guess you can fast forward 30 years. In my mid 30s, I at that point, I had kind of transitioned from my HR corporate background into the health and wellness space.
Mm.
That kind of changed for me by the age of like 29. So about just over a decade ago, I shifted myself into the health and wellness space and became a personal trainer, a yoga instructor, and a holistic nutritionist, and just fell in love with health and wellness. And I just wanted to help as many people as possible. And
Mm.
so I started my own nutrition practice at home, got lots of clients for training, yoga. I really like to diversify my day. I don't like to do the same thing over and over again. So it's really
Yes.
nice to have this little eclectic way that I could express myself. And I would say by the time I was in my mid 30s, I didn't, I was not at not at a 9 to 5 job. I didn't have a husband and I didn't have the kids. Like I think most of us think that is going to happen to us
Mm.
in
Mm.
our late teens and our 20s.
Mm.
And so that was kind of like a light bulb moment for me to say, okay, this hasn't happened or manifested for me yet, but
Mhm.
what can I do at this stage in my life to optimize my body and fertility as best as I can so that when the time it does come for me, that I am in the best place that I could possibly be in physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, so that I could have kids later in life. Now, I think most of us want to try and have kids naturally as opposed to going through
Mm.
ART.
Mm.
But if that does happen, then we're so lucky to have that option available. So even if that is the potential option for me, I know optimizing my body and my health with everything that I could do now will increase my chances of success in whatever route my fertility journey will take me in. So that being said, as a health practitioner already, I thought, doing my research and figuring out what I need to do to really kind of focus my health in fertility, this is going to be like a no brainer. It's not going to be that complicated because I had already had all of this knowledge just about women's health, hormones, the body, etc. But when I started diving into the research and looking into this kind of fertility space, because prior to focusing on fertility, it was more of like gut health. Mainly, I was focused on gut health and general health and wellness. Um, when I started diving into the research, I was just so overwhelmed with how much information there was that was contradicting. And it also led me to how many people were struggling with getting pregnant,
Mm,
especially those who are waiting longer to have babies, me being one of them, right? Whether or not you're
yes.
waiting for your partner, if that's what you want, maybe you want to be a single mom by choice, or you are taking time to further your career, and you don't want to prioritize a family right away. And so I have realized there's a huge community of people out there who could benefit and serve from this without just having to resort to, well, if you're over 35, the only way that you can get pregnant is through IVF, because I hear a
Mm,
lot of that out there
yes.
sometimes as well.
Yeah, me too.
Right. So
Yeah.
that really became the light bulb moment for me to take my business and kind of shift it in the focus of fertility. I did go back to get additional certifications to become a fertility awareness practitioner, which essentially just kind of helps women use their menstrual cycle as their fifth vital sign to understand their body through cycle charting,
Mm,
which is just the most empowering thing. I cannot believe I did not learn this earlier. And I can't believe women aren't taught this in school at a young age. We can talk about
yes.
that in a moment.
Yeah, let's definitely talk about that.
Yeah, and just, going back to get some additional certifications, pulling out old books on women's health, hormones, all that stuff. I just did like a deep dive into women's health with a lens and focus and fertility. And that's when I decided to, like let go of all the other things I was doing and kind of really pigeonhole my business into fertility space, which makes me now the Preconception Health Coach. So I really help women and couples in the preconception journey phase. So before they get pregnant, getting pregnant is can be challenging in itself, but then
Mm,
when you're pregnant, now we're looking at like the prenatal focus, right? When you are pregnant, and then after you give birth, there's the whole postnatal.
yes.
So all of those are their own specialties. So for me, I really kind of focus on the preconception side of things. And I have to say, Sarah, it has been the most empowering, incredible decision that I have made. It's I really feel like I'm now like truly in my life calling and my purpose and doing what I'm meant to be doing. And it's so interesting to be able to, again, like you said when I was talking about reading the bio, look back and see your
Mm,
trajectory and your story on how you
mm,
actually got here. So that's a little bit in a nutshell
mm.
my journey.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing. And what I love is that you are on this journey working alongside your clients. You're doing it
Hmm.
in real time. And, a lot of us that work in this space are doing it retrospectively.
Hmm.
I've come to the end of my fertility journey. I'm very blessed to have 3 children. And I'm looking back at, the journey that I went on and supporting people from that space. But you're actually in it, you're living it, you're doing this for you and taking beautiful women and couples on that journey with you. So I love that perspective and that side of it, because it shows that you really understand what you're doing. So you
Hmm.
mentioned the cycle charting. Can we dive
Yes.
into that? Tell us a bit more.
Yeah. So when I started to kind of look into the fertility stuff, I came across my mentor, Lisa Hendrickson Jack, who wrote an incredible book called The Fifth Vital Sign,
Okay.
who I actually went to for my certification for FAM practitioner. And when I grabbed that book and started reading it, I was like completely mind blown on how much our body is always giving us signs and
Mm.
symptoms on how our health is doing. And for women, as we all know, we have like say like our vital signs, which is, your heart rate, your blood pressure, um, the additional vital signs that our bodies that when we go to the doctors, everybody kind of checks these vital signs. But we've never been taught to use our menstrual cycle as one of those vital signs. So if we're talking about fertility, at the end of the day, in order for a woman to get pregnant, she needs to she needs to ovulate. That's kind of like the culmination of it all. She needs to ovulate. And in
Yes.
order to ovulate, right, if we're talking about natural cycles here, and if
Yes.
she, in order for her to ovulate, she needs to have a healthy menstrual cycle. And when we think about a menstrual cycle, I think before I really did a deep dive into the fam stuff, and we say, okay, what do you think a healthy menstrual cycle? Most people think about, well, I have a 5-day period. That means my menstrual cycle is healthy. It's really, most of us are not taught to think about our menstrual cycle outside of the days we actually have red flow. But that is just one small parameter of the overarching umbrella of what an actually healthy menstrual cycle means. So we can look at it. So let's say another healthy parameter of a menstrual cycle is cervical mucus. So a woman, when she's coming up into her fertile window, needs to have egg white, peak quality cervical mucus. Again, that cervical mucus is going to filter out the bad sperm. It's going to take the healthy sperm and push it up into the uterus, into the fallopian tube where it needs to go to fertilize the egg. So cervical mucus is a big component of a healthy menstrual cycle. Not many people understand and know what healthy cervical mucus means. We've got non-peak, we have peak cervical mucus. Some women don't actually have cervical mucus at all. This is a sign, right? So maybe so there's about 5 or 6 parameters of a healthy menstrual cycle. So one of them is cervical mucus. Another one is actually cycle length overall, your cycle length, not how many days your period is, but actually how long the cycle is. On average, a healthy menstrual cycle runs from anywhere from 24 to 35 days. So 24 to 35 days on average from cycle to cycle without 8 days of variation between each cycle. So maybe one cycle you have 24 days, the next cycle is 30 days. That's only 6 days of variation. So that's okay. Maybe the next cycle is 28 days. Maybe the next cycle is 26 days. Your body is going to constantly be responding to your environment, and we are not robots. We don't have like clockwork. Our bodies are not actually having the exact same cycle every single month over and over and over again. If you charted it doing fertility awareness method and actually pinpointed exactly when you ovulated, you'd probably see that your ovulation day is slightly changing each month. And that's just because our bodies are responding to the environment. We aren't just kind of robots where the algorithm is going to say, hey, it's cycle day 14. You must be ovulating. That is not the case. So we look at cycle length as a parameter to help us understand, do we have regular healthy cycles if we look at the cycle length. In addition to that, we need to have a healthy luteal phase. A lot of us sometimes don't even understand, well, what is the actual luteal phase? The luteal phase of the cycle is when from the day of ovulation until the next day of your period. And in the luteal phase of your cycle, once you ovulate, that follicle that was housing that egg is going to turn into like a raisin, something that's called a corpus luteum. And that corpus luteum is going to pump out progesterone to raise your body's temperature. And it does this specifically for a reason, because your body thinks, hey, I might be pregnant. Every month your body thinks you might be getting pregnant. So just like a mother hen sits on its eggs for 21 days before they hatch, she cannot get off those eggs. They have to stay warm, otherwise they will not hatch properly. Our bodies raise our own body temperature just from that corpus luteum releasing progesterone into the body, because it's progesterone that raises the body temperature, to keep our egg that's potentially been fertilized nice and warm in case we get pregnant. If we don't get pregnant, then the cycle starts again. But if we think about that luteal phase, if you're actually pinpointing when you're ovulating, we need to make sure that in order for a woman to actually get pregnant, she needs to have at least a 10-day luteal phase in order for implantation to happen. If she has a shorter than 10-day luteal phase, this is a red flag that she might have low progesterone. This can also be seen through premenstrual spotting. A lot of these kind of symptoms like premenstrual spotting, pain with period, really, really bad PMS are unfortunately very common and become normalized in society. And a lot of the times the doctors mask it with a birth control pill, which doesn't actually get to the underlying root cause. And then people get off the pill, they try and get pregnant, they're having trouble, and they don't understand why. So again, we can use that menstrual cycle. Once you learn how to chart and understand the menstrual cycle, then you're really able, once you start to kind of educate yourself and learn and understand what these healthy parameters are and what to look for, you can become your own detective and really be able to kind of mitigate a lot of challenges maybe that you might have just from understanding your body and charting your cycle accurately, understanding these parameters to then say, hey, this is a red flag that I need to get checked out. And then also, Sarah, this really helps you advocate for yourself at the end of the day, right? Like you're putting so much power back into your hands. Um, or you might say, hey, like my cycle's healthy and I actually understand and know when my fertile window is. So it's also greater chance for you to get pregnant if you are really that in tune with your body.
Wow. Well, I've learned absolutely loads, and I now reflect on my journey and I'm like, oh, I can see that all that stuff was happening for me. Because I mean, my cycle was like 56 days. So mine was just, crazy. But I think it's really good to know that if we can do this before we're trying to get pregnant, or when we're at the very beginning of the journey, to become our own detective. We're not waiting to do this investigation and this sort of inner detective work when we are already 2, 3, 4, 5 years into our journey and super stressed, right? We can actually sort of understand it with just a bit of sort of more, I think we can be a bit more gentle when we're not so attached to the outcome of wanting to be desperately pregnant, when we're sort of a bit battered and worn later on in the journey. So to do that work up front and to know that we understand our bodies so that we can have those really empowering conversations with the doctors. And because we, as you mentioned, we are the best advocates for ourselves, and we have all that inner wisdom inside us. So let's use that to be able to work alongside the doctors should we need to, when we get to that space. So thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I would say, depending on the doctor, because we can get everyone from a medical doctor to an RE, a reproductive endocrinologist, to a fertility doctor, to an OBGYN. Like there are so many people out there with who all serve a very important function in all of this. But at the end of the day, if you're able to actually go to them with this information, first of all, you'll actually know which doctor you'll need to go to if when you have all this data for yourself, as opposed to jumping from one to the next to the next to the next to the next. And I do find with the medical doctor side of things, I'd say 98% of the community, or of my community and women that I talk to, is what they get a couple answers. If they're struggling getting pregnant, they say, come back to me after a year. There's nothing we can do other than keep trying, take your prenatal. There's nothing we can do until it's been a year of trying. Well, how that doesn't leave the individual feeling very good and empowered and knowing how to really take the next steps to optimize her fertility while she's waiting that year of potentially maybe not getting pregnant to then get to the fertility clinic. And then in addition to that, when women are suffering from miscarriages, at least here, again, and I'm from Toronto, Canada, and in North America is where most of my clients reside, but I would say that most of them say, that the doctor can't do anything about a miscarriage unless they've had 3. Only on their third one, they can come back and they will be sent to a specialist. And it's like, why do we have to put somebody through 3 miscarriages?
Exactly.
And a big part, especially these days, because progesterone is really depleted from stress, from like high cortisol, you can really impact your progesterone level. But I would say a large chunk of women who suffer from miscarriage could just be from low progesterone and having that short luteal phase.
Yeah.
And so if you can learn that up front, like it really, again, I just keep saying this word, but it really does empower you. And there is a lot you can do naturally to help with that, right? With nutrition, with supplements, lifestyle, self-care. So yeah, that's just another point I wanted to make.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. And I'll share my sort of story. So I know that it was because I had low progesterone, because I lost 3 babies, and then with the next time I was pregnant, they looked at that, and then I maintained that pregnancy. So thank you for sort of sharing that, because I think just even having that in our awareness, that might be something. And yes, why do we have to wait? Why do we have to go through the grief and the loss and the trauma, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, of going through multiple miscarriages before they even sort of sit down and start to investigate that? Because you start to feel like you're being very dismissed. And so again, if we can empower ourselves with some knowledge, and we can go to the doctor and say, can we try this? Worst case scenario, they'll say no, and just you're exactly where you are, but at least you know that you've done everything you can for yourself and you've asked those questions. So
Or you find another doctor. Some doctors
Yeah,
will do it, right? That sometimes you find another
exactly.
doctor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, good point. So talk to us a little bit about how we can prepare ourselves to get pregnant through nutrition.
Yeah. Oh, this is kind of like my bread and butter. I guess pun intended there. But
I didn't even recognize that.
Yes. So nutrition, as a holistic nutritionist myself, again, certified over a decade ago, I just love talking about nutrition. So I would be happy to. What I'm going to do is kind of encapsulate everything into something that I call my 4R method, which is something that I came up with over the years because I found that there was a lot of common themes in women and couples that I was supporting in the process. And because there is so much information on nutrition, it can be very overwhelming. So I always do my best to try and kind of like narrow down my topics into these like bite-sized pieces or things that you'll be able to kind of remember and take home with you. Now, I will say as well that what I'm going to share does apply to both female and male. So this isn't just for a woman if she's listening. You can also apply this to your partner. So
Right.
the 4R method that I came up with is these are the 4Rs that I want you to remember when preparing for pregnancy and optimizing fertility. Now, one small thing that I want to say before I dive in is that at the end of the day, I want everybody to remember and know that your most optimal health self, so sorry, your best healthy self, I'm trying to find the right words here. Your the healthiest version of yourself, that's the right word. The
Yeah.
healthiest version of yourself is going to be the most fertile version of yourself.
Mm.
So think about your fertility like in regards to your overall health in general. So just remember that. So the first R that let's quickly go over the 4 R's. The first R is remove. The second R is replace. The third R is repair. And the fourth R is rebalance. And so we'll kind of run through those 4 R's very
Right.
briefly, and I'll give you some examples. So the first R that we want to do is we want to remove all of the foods that are kind of being noxious to our body, whether it's impairing our gut and impairing our hormones. We want to remove the foods that are not serving our bodies to kind of create this healthy environment for conception to occur. So, a lot of these things, a lot of people already know about, right? We need to remove alcohol. Alcohol depletes the body big time of a lot of B vitamins. B vitamins are so important for building the blood. The blood volume doubles when you do get pregnant. So, we want to make sure that those B vitamins are up to par as much as we can. We also want to remove, processed sugary foods. They're very inflammatory to the body. They can cause what's known as leaky gut. They can inflame the lining of your small intestines, which is not optimal for nutrient absorption. We also want to remove industrial seed oils. Are you familiar, Sarah, with what industrial seed
No,
oils are? Yeah.
no,
So
tell me more.
yeah. So think about them as vegetable oils like canola oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil. If you grab a product from the shelf in the grocery store, usually it's the aisles, right? You go down the aisles, you grab boxed
Mm.
cookies, boxed crackers, salad dressings, any of those, anything that's really packaged. I can almost guarantee you that 98% of those products are going to have industrial seed oils in them. Usually, one
Okay.
of the first couple ingredients, whether it's palm oil, canola oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, these industrial seed oils are extremely inflammatory to the body and they're hidden in a lot of places. Also, if you go out to eat at restaurants, there are cheap oils. So, most restaurants use these to cook with. And so, industrial oils are coming into our body from a lot of places that we don't even realize. But again, they are higher in what's called omega-6 fatty acids. We need to have a healthy ratio of omega-3 to omega-6 fatty acids. And the industrial seed oils have way more omega-6 fatty acids, which again is inflammatory to the body. So just question, when you're cooking at home, Sarah, what do you typically cook with?
Virgin olive oil.
Good. So olive oil is great. If you're cooking at high heat, I will tell you the best fats to cook with at high heats are what's known as saturated fats. So the best oils for that because they don't oxidize at high heat. We have different types of oils which can get damaged at different levels of heat. And so when
Okay.
you cook at high heat with saturated fats, this is coconut oil, avocado oil, and grapeseed oil. Those are the three healthy oils to cook with at high heat, and butter. Grass-fed butter is beautiful to cook with as
Okay.
well. Yeah, so those are a-okay. But if you have canola oil at home, that's a very popular one that's sitting in a lot of people's pantries. Please throw it out and replace it with the healthier oils. So industrial seed oils are a big one that not a lot of people are talking about or really know to
Mm.
remove, and then being mindful again of how much you're actually eating out, because it's going to happen no matter what. So what did I say? Alcohol, processed sugar, industrial seed oils, and oh, there's so much more. Now I just got to find one at the top of my head. Um, sugar and well, sugar is another one. Okay, let's jump to replace, because I have them all. There are some of them are escaping my brain right now because I'm trying to
It'll
keep
come back
the
to you.
R's intact. Yeah, we'll come back to
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
But those are three big ones that are important. The next R is replace. So once you've removed these foods that are kind of causing damage to the body, we need to replace it with nutrient dense fertility foods, right? Mother Nature makes foods so that it can heal and nourish our bodies. So any whole foods are incredible for your overall health. And a lot of those foods, in addition, are great for fertility. But when we do think about replacing, I want you to think about two big things. So, you want to eat folate rich foods. So folate is also known as B9, another B vitamin. That's really, really important for increasing as you prepare for pregnancy. And you want to eat fiber rich foods. So lots of fiber foods. And once we get to repair, we'll understand why fiber is really important. But dark leafy greens are a great food that you can incorporate into your diet as you're preparing for pregnancy. In addition to that, we want to eat foods also with a lot of vitamin D. So animal protein products are actually incredible for fertility. I don't know, Sarah, being in the fertility space, if you've kind of seen the new thing about trend. I guess we'll call it, it's trending kind of, but like organ meats, liver, and how good organ meats are for fertility as well. They're like Mother Nature's
Really?
multivitamin. Oh yeah.
Because liver was one of
Yes.
the things when I was first trying to get pregnant, that was off the table. Liver was one of the things that we couldn't eat, which I actually really enjoyed. And I was like, oh, that's a shame.
That's changed. Well, they'll say it because it has high amounts of vitamin A, but high amounts of vitamin A, there's two types of vitamin A. There's vitamin A in the form of beta carotene, which comes from vegetables, and then there's vitamin A in the form of retinol, which comes from animal protein. And a lot of the times the doctors will tell you you want to watch your consumption of high vitamin A rich foods because it can be toxic potentially when somebody is pregnant. However, there have been recent studies that now show that the vitamin A toxicity actually comes from what's called a teratogenic effect, which mainly comes from consuming too much vitamin A through supplementation versus actually eating it from the food source.
Okay.
And if we look back at traditional cultures, blood and bone and organ based dishes were the staple foods that women ate while they were preparing for pregnancy,
They were,
when they were
yeah.
pregnant, and after they breastfed. Because you think about how much energy and nutrients the body needs to create another life, these blood based, organ, bone based dishes have all of those nutrients just built
Mm,
directly into it.
mm.
So it's organ meats, liver, ideally you want to have about, it's not very much, about 1 to 3 ounces of liver a week will do. It's not like you're like eating liver for dinner every night for the whole week.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But
What
having
about
liver, yeah, go ahead.
what about pate?
Yeah, liver pate. That's
That's
exactly
okay.
how you can
Yeah,
eat it.
okay.
Yeah, you
Ah,
do
because
liver
that
pate.
was my number one thing that I just really, really missed when
Yeah,
I was,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Liver pate is beautiful. You can make liver pate and you can freeze them in ice cubes. And then if you're making like a bolognese sauce or some sort of chili, just pop out a liver pate ice cube, throw it into that dish, stir it in, and you're good to go. So you don't have to like cook all the time.
Great idea. Top
Yeah.
tip.
Yeah, exactly. Organ there, that's also filled with lots of vitamin D, folate, your B vitamins, vitamin A, choline, all of these nutrients, vitamins and minerals are extremely important for fertility. So folate foods, dark leafy greens, organ meats, fiber-rich foods, which again, we'll get to in a moment. And as well, full-fat dairy if you are not intolerant to lactose. And if dairy doesn't give you a problem, then full-fat dairy is also incredible for fertility. Again, animal-based products, as long as
Yeah.
you're sourcing it from grass-fed cows. That's the important part. You have to think about your
Okay.
sourcing when you're actually
Yes.
making these
Yeah.
decisions of buying these things. So those are three. I'm going to kind of stick to three foods for each because trust me, I can go on tangents for all of these and it'll be a lot. So I'll stick to three. So those are three for replace. Now I want to jump to repair. And I know, Sarah, before we pressed record, we were just chatting briefly about some stuff and you had mentioned the term microbiome. So you might know where this repair is going towards.
Yes.
The repair is all about repairing the gut lining because as a nutritionist, I was taught, and I see this all the time, you could be eating the healthiest diet in the world, but if your gut is compromised and if your body is not able to actually assimilate and absorb these nutrients and excrete the toxic waste, then your body's not really getting the benefits from it. So we need to make sure that our gut lining or our gut is in tip-top shape in order to actually reap the benefits from all of these foods that we have now replaced our diet with. So let's talk about how we can repair the gut. The first thing is fiber-rich foods. I want you to think about fiber as like the broom that sweeps your digestive tract clean. We must be pooping at least 2 times a day in order to have like healthy bowels. If you're pooping once a day, that is actually, I remember when I learned this in school, it's like, what? I mean, I poop fine. Now we're talking about poop, but whatever. This is normal for me. I talk about poop, cervical mucus, periods. So I hope I'm not making anyone uncomfortable. But
No. We need to know this stuff, right?
yeah. So pooping once a day is actually considered constipation. So our body is going through this constant like regeneration and cleansing all day long. And if we are not pooping more than once a day, at least 2 or 3 times a day, we're actually recirculating a lot of the toxins or the toxic byproducts that our body kind of goes through as it kind of breaks down our food, right? If we have a lot of excess estrogen in the body, that comes out through our poop, right? What is our poop made of? Really, it's water. So are you drinking enough water throughout the day? It's water, fiber, bacteria, and toxins. So it's stinky because of the toxins. You have to drink enough water in order to have a healthy bowel movement. It's fiber from the fibrous food, so it's kind of stays nice and solid together. And then it's bacteria. So let's talk about bacteria for a moment. So we talked about this concept of microbiome, right? We've got this colony of bacteria that lives and sits inside of our gut. We actually have 10 times more bacterial cells in our body than we have human cells. So if you think about it, we're actually bacteria having a human experience as opposed to the other way around.
I love that
Right?
analogy. Yeah.
Yeah, there's bacteria everywhere living on our skin, living inside of our vagina, living on our nose, our mouth, in our gut. So we actually have 3.5 to 4.5 pounds of that bacteria that sit inside of our gut. So think about like a 4-pound weight. That's the colony of bacteria that sits inside of our gut. And we have both good and bad bacteria. And the important thing to remember is that we are not trying to eradicate all of the bad and only have good. We actually need to have a healthy balance of both. But most of us have more bad and less good because what impacts the gut microbiome is stress. Stress is a big one. If we're not eating enough fiber, if we're eating too much processed food, industrial seed oils, if we're not alcohol, medications, antibiotics, all of this is impacting our gut microbiome. So a great way to think about how to improve your gut health, if you're like, okay, give me a takeaway, Nora, what's a takeaway? One takeaway is eating naturally fermented foods. Sarah, do you have a favorite naturally fermented food?
Oh, no. You put me right on the spot. Tell me something.
That's okay.
Oh,
That's
no.
okay. I try. Okay, so let me what are you familiar with? Sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha, any of those?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't eat any of those. No, I'm
Okay.
guilty as charged. So yeah.
Guilty as charged. That's okay. That's totally okay. If you are open, maybe you can pickles. Do you like, a lot of people are familiar on like pickles. Do you like
pickles are
pickles?
okay. Yeah, I don't eat them very often, but yeah, pickles are okay.
Pickles are like fermented cucumber, but
Yeah.
when you ferment, so very popular ones, which are mainly based in Europe, kimchi is more like Asian, like Japanese.
Mm,
And then sauerkraut comes more from like Germany and like Eastern
yeah.
European. And the base of those are cabbage, and the cabbage, and then it's spiced differently depending on what you're
Mm,
making.
mm,
But it's the fermented cabbage that is now, during the fermentation process, it releases all of this, what's called lactobacillus acid, which is a very good bacteria to help improve the microbiome. So yogurt, a lot of people are like, I eat yogurt. That's good because yogurt is fermented as well, right? But
okay.
it's not the same, as you're not getting as much bacteria as you would from like sauerkraut, kimchi, or kombucha, or something called kefir. So I would say, in order to help repair the gut lining, eating, a little bit of fermented foods every day, if you are not a fermented food lover, because it is a little bit of a, you have to like it's very like tart and vinegary, kind of like a pickle. If you're not going
Yeah.
to have that, then maybe taking a daily probiotic would do for you. but but you can repair the gut lining by eating some fermented foods, eating enough fiber, and drinking enough water. A lot of us
Mm.
just don't drink enough water, and it sounds so simple, but it really makes a profound difference.
Yes, I remember when I was trying to get pregnant the second time, going to see a kinesiologist, and she kept saying to me, "You're dehydrated, you need to drink more water." But what she didn't explain to me was why. So I know
Mhm.
that I didn't fully immerse myself in the water drinking, so to speak, because I didn't really fully understand. I understand, like, yeah, you don't want to be dehydrated, but let's talk a little bit more about, like, what that does to the body and why, and I think if she'd gone the extra step, I would have been like, okay, I'm gonna drink some more water, like.
Right. Both of us. I'm going to take a sip now too. I've been
Mm,
talking.
mm,
Mm.
exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, 70% of our body is water, and everything we'll kind of think about like a raisin. A raisin shriveled up and dried up is just how had all of that kind of the water sucked out of it. The same thing is happening to our cells. If we also think about cervical mucus, the production of cervical mucus, we need to be real hydrated for that because it's quite watery and slippery.
Mm, mm,
um, in order for our organs to function properly, right, our kidneys filter all of the liquids that are going through our body. We really need to make sure we're hydrated. And so a general rule of thumb for anyone listening who's like, well, how much water do I actually need to drink? Generally speaking, we say about 1 liter, and I think we have the same metrics, correct me if I'm wrong though, one
yeah.
liter for every 50 pounds of body weight. So if you're 150 pounds, on average, 3 liters of water a day will suffice. Now, if you're in the hot of summer and you're outside walking, you're sweating a lot, and you exercise a lot, you're probably, releasing more water maybe than the person
Mm,
who's not exercising as much, or being where it's winter as opposed to summer. So you'd have to adjust your water accordingly, just based on your activity level, and the season that you're in. But again, just generally speaking, the average rule of thumb is 1 liter for every 50 pounds of body weight. So what I get my clients to do is literally get themselves a reusable stainless steel or glass water bottle. Please don't use plastics, BPA
yes.
stuff, even something plastics that say BPA free. It's not entirely toxic free. So stainless steel and glass is the best. But find yourself, 750 mil or 1 liter, and say, okay, I'm committed to drinking 3 of these a day. And at least okay, I've only gotten through 2. I
Mm,
need to get 1 more in.
mm,
So that's a good
yeah.
a good little tip.
That is a great tip. And also, I didn't realize that it was linked to your body weight, because we're not told. We're just given the standard message, aren't we, about how much
Right,
water
like
we need
8
to drink.
glasses of water a day or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm quite little. So it does obviously make sense that somebody who's twice the or 3 times the size and weight of me is going to need more
Yeah.
water.
More
But
exactly.
yeah. But
Exactly.
again, we're not told that. So I think that's a great tip.
Yeah.
What would be your number one tip for helping us to get pregnant? If there was one thing that you could encourage people to do, just
With
to improve their fertility. I mean, it may be
with
drinking water.
nutrition.
We may, yeah, with nutrition.
Okay. I'm so glad you asked that question because it's actually from the last R. So like this is a perfect segue.
Okay.
And we
Oh
did
yeah, we
not
haven't finished.
plan this.
Sorry, I'm getting
Yeah, that's
overexcited.
okay.
I thought,
That's okay. It's okay.
let's
And
go
I was
back
like,
to
we
the
didn't
next
even
R.
plan this. It worked. And I remember I remembered one thing that I need to talk about for remove, and it's going to go hand in hand with the last one. So
Okay.
I'll make
All
it
right.
merge all together. So the last thing is rebalance. So remove, replace, repair, and now rebalance. So
Okay.
rebalance is all about rebalancing your hormones with nutrition, or balancing the hormones with nutrition. And the number one tip that I will give anybody and everybody who is even just general health, but for fertility, is to balance your blood sugar. This is so, so, so important, because without balanced blood sugar, your hormones, your cortisol is going to be too high, too low. This is going to impact your insulin. And those two, cortisol and insulin, are like the queen bee hormones that are going to dictate all of the rest of the hormones down the chain. And those fertility hormones like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, even your thyroid, are all dictated by your insulin and your cortisol, which are, again, the two queen bee hormones. So you might be thinking, well, how do I balance my blood sugar? The first tip always is to eat when you wake up. When you wake up in the morning, your body is fasted and dehydrated, right? You haven't eaten or drinking throughout the night, however many hours of sleeping. So when you wake up in the morning, you usually have a urine. It's probably quite yellow because you haven't drank throughout the night. And then your body is now looking for fuel, and it's looking for hydration. So what do people typically do first thing in the morning when they wake up? Trick question,
Good.
Sarah. What did they usually drink?
What do they
Starts
normally
with a C.
drink?
Starts with a C.
Probably a cup of coffee. I don't drink coffee, so I'm having to think about it.
Okay.
I don't drink tea or coffee. I'm a very odd English woman. I've never
Oh
drink
yeah.
tea or
Well,
coffee. People are confused by me.
yeah, well, that's the one that I want to talk about, remove as well. The coffee.
Mm.
Coffee is a diuretic, so it dehydrates you even more, and it's also a stimulant, and so it's gonna wake you up. People's like, I can't start my day without my coffee.
Mm.
Well, if you are trying to get pregnant and you refuse to give up your coffee, that's fine. Just drink your coffee after you've had your breakfast. I want you to put water and lemon in your body first, and I want you to eat yourself a fat and protein fueled and fiber fueled breakfast. So like eggs, avocado toast. Yummy. Who doesn't like that?
Mm. Mm.
Or like a big bowl of oatmeal with some nut butter, some seeds, hemp seeds, and fruit on it. We don't want to be eating like a big bowl of carbs in the morning, because that's just going to spike our blood sugar up, and then it's going to drop down after. And then we're just going to have this yo-yo of blood sugar throughout the day. And so coffee also is an appetite suppressant. So if you consume caffeine, not necessarily coffee, I'm sorry, caffeine, which is in coffee, but caffeine is an appetite suppressant. So a lot of people will have coffee first and then be like, well, I'm not really hungry for breakfast. I'm not a breakfast eater. That actually could be because your coffee is stifling your appetite, as opposed to your natural body saying, hey, like,
Mm.
we got to eat,
Mm.
I'm hungry. So all of these little things compounded over time really have an impact on your hormones. Coffee as well is very acidic, so it can impact your gut microbiome as well. So number one tip, like I said, is balance your blood sugar. Do that by eating within 30 to 60 minutes of waking, fat, fiber, and protein rich breakfast. And before that, have a bunch of water and lemon to get the digestive juices going, to filter out that liver, to start your day. And then as you're moving throughout your day, you want to be eating about every 3 to 4 hours while you're preparing for pregnancy. This is not the time to do like a crazy juice fast or crazy cleanse or go crazy keto. Now, everybody is a little bit different. I'm just talking about generally here now. Generally speaking, we want to have a balanced, healthy diet. So eating every 3 to 4 hours, fat and protein and carbs mixed together in every meal, so that you're balancing and stabilizing that blood sugar, and eating healthy, balanced meals. So that's my number one tip, and it kind of goes in with the 4 R's.
Mm. Awesome. Well, I've learned a lot there, so thank you. I wish I'd known you when I was trying to get pregnant the second time. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I can keep going, but I'll stop there. But hopefully, if you might be thinking like, oh my gosh, that was so much information, just think about taking away one or two things, whether that's industrial seed oils, drinking enough water, having your coffee after breakfast. Hey, those three are great to get started with.
Mm.
It's really
Mm.
important that we meet ourselves where we're at. I always tell my clients, and also please, please, please don't strive to be perfect with all of this.
Mm.
My philosophy is 80-20 rule. Listen, I'm a lover of ice cream, of carbs, of pizza, of pasta. Like
Gourmet burgers.
gourmet burgers. Exactly. You read it in my bio. Like I love indulging in eating food, eating, quote unquote, maybe more unhealthy foods, but really it's really all about balance. If you strive to be absolutely perfect, it's just going to be more
Mm.
stressful, and we don't need that added stress when we're on this journey. So 80-20.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I remember, have you read Anita Morjani's book, Dying to Be Me? Have you heard of that book?
No, but I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, so Anita Morjani wrote a book called Dying to Be Me. So it's about her journey through stage 4 cancer. She was basically at the end of life. Her family were told to say goodbye to her. And she actually had a near-death experience and then came back and survived. And she used to travel the world with Dr. Wayne Dyer and give talks. And one of the things that she learned was that she had tried to be perfect, like you've just mentioned, and she was doing all the right things. She was eating healthy. She was not drinking alcohol. She was doing all the right things, everything. But what she wasn't doing was being real and gentle with herself and allowing herself just to live and be happy. So I'm really happy that you've mentioned that it is about balance. It is about, just doing what we can, and every small step that we can take towards being more healthy is going to help us. So I think what you've just shared is so important. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. I try to always remember to say that when I'm doing a podcast or having an interview with someone,
Mm,
because I know how much pressure women put on themselves as they're going through this journey, and it's real. And we're humans, and we have these very strong feelings that can become very overwhelming, and they can kind of overtake us. And I think one really important thing that I'm even just learning with myself as I go through this process is just to be gentle with ourselves. And
mm, mm.
it's okay. It's okay to want to take a nap in the middle of the day, or it's okay to want to eat that burger, and it's okay. It's
Yeah,
okay. And go
yeah,
ahead and do it and enjoy it.
exactly. One life, one opportunity. So yeah,
Yes.
we've got to do what's right for us. So I believe that you have a beautiful free gift for our audience. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah. So if you're looking to learn more about how to eat to get pregnant, I have a free guide. It is a little guide on how to eat for your menstrual cycle. So as we're moving through week by week our menstrual cycle, our body actually has different nutritional needs. Right? When we're having our menstruation, we need to have
Mm,
more. We need to have more red meats. And anyways, I talk about all of this in the guide. It's called
awesome.
Eat to Get Pregnant Guide, and you can find it at www.naturallynora.ca/eat. And you can just download it there. And there's 4 recipes in there as well, one for each week of the cycle.
Ah, that sounds amazing. And I'll put the link to that in the comments below. I would also love for you to share how people can work with you.
Yes. So I mainly take my clients through one program, that Master Your Cycle to Get Pregnant program. It is a 5-month program. I find that working with clients over a longer period of time is where I get to see those incredible transformations, and we actually get the results that we're looking for. And the Master Your Cycle to Get Pregnant program allows you to have 10 60-minute one-on-one Zoom coaching sessions with me, along with an online platform that gives you tons of pre-recorded videos on all of this delicious information that I'm sharing with you. Like today, I tell you how to improve sperm health, egg health, gut health. I even have some mindset stuff in there, but this really allows the individual to immerse themselves into a program that is going to educate and empower them and become, again, more body illiterate, help them advocate for themselves, and at the end of the day, help them get pregnant. And so if that is something that you are interested in, I also have an application form to apply for the program, Sarah. I don't have the application form URL off the top of my head, but I'd be happy to share it with you, and you can put it
Yes,
in the
do
link
that.
in the
Yeah,
show
thank
notes.
you.
But otherwise, my website is naturallynora.ca, and there's tons of information on there and different ways that you can work with me. I also have a 14-day fertility cleanse. That's just a pre-recorded program that you can kind of do at your own pace. But yeah, those are some options.
Well, they sound like awesome options. And I know you're on Instagram. So can you just share
Yes.
your social media platforms with us as well?
Yes, it's naturally_Nora. So that's my Insta handle, and that's pretty much where I live. I'm starting up my YouTube channel, but it's happening slowly. So in the meantime, just find me at Instagram, and I post like 5 days a week. I'm an infographic lover. I love my infographics. So
Yes. Yes,
you
I
can
see
go on.
those.
And I try and, do my best to get some reels in, but I also have a podcast called the Ultimate Pregnancy Prep Podcast. So it's another great resource for if, I've got guests. Actually, Sarah, I had you on the show not too long
You
ago.
did.
I interview guest experts in the field, and I also do my own episodes. So if you're looking for more information, that's also a great place to go.
Yes, definitely subscribe to the podcast. I definitely recommend that. So I will share all of those links in the comments below. Have you got just one final piece of wisdom before I let you go that you can share with our audience? I've loved our conversation, but just any final words of wisdom.
Yeah. And I think, Sarah, this kind of goes back to even, I feel like we always talk about this before we kind of press record, but is listen to your gut. If we're going to be talking about gut health,
Yeah.
intuition, all of the above
Yes.
is,
Yes.
I think we are born with this incredible sixth sense that sometimes takes time to harness, but it's there in everybody and it's there in all of us. And I believe, and just being a human myself and navigating this life with my own challenges, I always find that my gut has always given me the best direction and step forward to go in. So if something doesn't feel right to you, if you want to get a second opinion on something, whatever it may be, wherever you are, again, because this fertility space can be quite emotionally charged. Find some space, give yourself some space so that you can have some quiet, you can have some time to sit and breathe and tune back into that gut instinct, to your intuition, because it's going to lead you in the right direction. We just have to create the space to listen to it. So
Mm.
harness your gut, harness your intuition, listen to your gut. That would be my final takeaway.
Such wonderful advice. I'm a big believer and advocate for that as well. So that's always my final piece of wisdom that
I
I
know.
share. So yeah, it's so, so true. It is so, so true. So thank you
Yeah.
so much, Nora, for sharing all of your beautiful wisdom with us today. Thank you for shining your light in the fertility space and supporting so many women and couples on their fertility journey. I wish I had known you when I was going through my struggles. And so I'm really happy to be able to share you with people who are still on their fertility journey. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me to share. I appreciate it.
My absolute pleasure. Take care.
Thank you.